Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. 1 week before the wedding, Thomas finished work early, ignoring a client's call, and hurried home to focus on writing his wedding vows. However, upon entering the house, he froze in place. His fiancée stood before him in a striking black cocktail dress, a pearl necklace draped around her neck, and high heels that accentuated her figure. She looked stunning, and for a moment, Thomas was captivated by her appearance. "You're back earlier than I expected," she said, her voice unusually sharp, with a hint of unease. Thomas sensed that something was off, though he couldn't quite figure out what. Thinking he might have forgotten some dinner plans, Thomas smiled, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Give me 10 minutes, I'll shave and change." But Ava's trembling tone as she responded gave him pause. "Where are you going?" He stopped, puzzled. "With you, of course. You're dressed like we're going somewhere." A brief silence hung between them before she let out a heavy sigh, guilt clouding her expression. "There's something you need to know. I didn't know how to tell you, so I was going to leave a note, but I'm leaving for the weekend," she confessed, her eyes darting toward a suitcase by the door. Thomas frowned. "Leaving? What do you mean? We're in the middle of wedding preparations. What's going on?" "I just need some space," she mumbled, her voice trembling. "I'll be staying at a hotel for the weekend." "Alone?" he asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. The pause that followed felt endless before Ava whispered, "No, I'll be with a friend." A cold knot tightened in Thomas's chest, and he exhaled slowly, trying to maintain his composure. "A friend? Should I assume this friend is a man?" Her silence and the guilt in her eyes told him everything. "It's not what you think," she muttered. "He's just a friend." "A friend?" Thomas repeated, his voice rising as his fists clenched at his sides. "You're spending the weekend before our wedding with some guy and expect me to believe it's innocent?" "I need this," she asked quietly. "Who is he?" Thomas's voice cut through the air, vibrating with tension. "Who is this guy you'll be sharing a bed with?" "It's not like that," Ava whispered, lowering her gaze to the floor. "We're just talking about everything." "What is he? A therapist? A counselor?" Thomas snapped, losing patience with her evasive answers. But she remained silent, her gaze fixed on the floor. "Is he at least licensed to help couples before their wedding?" Thomas continued sarcastically. Her lips quivered, but she couldn't form any words. Finally, she mumbled, "He's just a good listener." Thomas's jaw tightened. "A good listener? So, a week before our wedding, you're going to spend the weekend with some guy because he's a good listener?" Tears streamed down Ava's cheeks, her guilt spilling out in the form of silent sobs. "Look at me!" Thomas demanded. When she finally raised her eyes, mascara ran down her cheeks, and her flawless appearance was now ruined. "Tell me again. Who is he? Promise you won't hurt him," Ava whispered, her voice barely audible. Thomas's eyes darkened with fury. "I promise I'll find him," he growled. "And if you don't tell me who he is, I swear I—" Ava collapsed onto the floor, curling into a ball as if trying to protect herself from the heat of his anger radiating from him like fire. "Get up!" he yelled, but she didn't move. Enraged, Thomas grabbed a mirror in the hallway and threw it at the wall, shattering it into pieces that scattered across the floor. The sudden noise made Ava jump to her feet. "That's why I was leaving a note," she cried. "I wanted to explain everything before you got home." Thomas's eyes burned into her. "So if I hadn't come home early, you would have just disappeared." His voice was icy. Ava nodded, unable to say anything more, her shame robbing her of words. Thomas struggled to keep his emotions in check, his anger boiling beneath a facade of calm. "So, you were planning to disappear for the weekend with another man and leave me just a note?" His voice was filled with disbelief. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a notepad and pen, and carelessly tossed them onto the table as he sat down. "This better be one hell of a note." Ava hesitantly sat across from him. After a brief pause, she began writing. The minutes stretched on, and as soon as she put down the pen, Thomas waited anxiously. When she made no move to hand him the notebook, he reached out and snatched it from her. There was only one cryptic line on the page. "Next week I'm starting a new chapter in my life, and I need to do it before it's too late." His face twisted with shock and disappointment. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Tell me the truth. Were you planning to leave me for someone else?" Ava hesitated, her eyes darting around the room before she answered. "If I had more time, I would have explained everything." "That's not an answer," he cut in sharply. "How could you think this would help us? How is this supposed to improve our marriage?" Her words caught in her throat, and she struggled to find any justification. I thought it might help us." Thomas shook his head, unable to believe what he was hearing. "Help us? People destroy marriages over things like this, Ava. Affairs ruin everything. There's nothing left after that. You can't just come back from something like this." His bluntness cut her deeply, leaving her in shock. She hadn't expected him to be so direct or to hint at the possible end of their relationship. Desperately trying to salvage the situation, Ava frantically searched her mind for something, anything, that could excuse her actions, but nothing came. In helplessness, she mumbled, "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this." "React like this?" Thomas repeated, something inside him snapping as his voice rose. "You think this is bad? You don't even know what bad is. I'm canceling the wedding, unless you tell me his name right now." His words sent a wave of terror through her. "Don't say that," she begged, grabbing his wrists. "I love you, Thomas. You mean everything to me." He pulled his hands free from her grasp. "Tell me his name." She remained silent. "This is your last chance. Either tell me his name or leave my house, right now." Tears welled up in her eyes as she stammered, "Thomas, please," her voice trembling. "I love you." "You have a strange way of showing love," he replied coldly, rising from his chair and heading for the door. "I'll ask you one more time. Tell me his name or leave." Finally, unable to bear the tension any longer, she whispered, Kyle Martinez." The color drained from Thomas's face, his anger simmering. "Your boss? That old man is older than your father." His voice echoed through the room. Ava broke down in sobs, her body shaking. "Did you sleep with him?" Thomas's voice was now eerily calm. She said nothing, her gaze fixed on the floor as his question hung in the air. "Did you sleep with him?" he repeated, his voice soft yet commanding. Still there was no answer. Thomas leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "Answer me. Did you sleep with him?" Tears streamed down her face and she barely nodded. The confession hit him like a physical blow. He staggered back, his heart racing in his chest, his vision darkening. Grabbing the table for support, he felt the ground slipping away beneath him. Ava stood frozen, paralyzed by fear and guilt. Several long moments passed before Thomas could regain enough composure to speak again. "He's married, isn't he? I remember seeing him and his wife at the Christmas party." His voice was cold and detached. "What does she think about her husband cheating with someone half her age?" "She doesn't care," Ava whispered, barely audible. She's going through menopause. They haven't been close for almost a year." "Did she tell you that directly?" Thomas asked, suspicion evident in his voice. Kyle hesitated, his response full of uncertainty. "No, she didn't. She was too ashamed to admit it outright." "Why don't we just call her and settle this?" Thomas suggested, barely concealing his irritation. Ava firmly shook her head. "That would only embarrass her further." "Give me your phone," Thomas demanded, losing patience. "I'm willing to take that risk." Ava reluctantly admitted, "I don't have their home number, only his mobile." Thomas's eyes narrowed. "So, he's hiding from his wife, isn't he?" "It's not like that," Ava quickly protested. "He's just trying to preserve her dignity, to spare her the humiliation." Thomas's anger flared. "It's disgusting that you're defending him. It makes me sick." His voice turned cold like ice. "You have two options. Either you leave or you become just as vile as the person you're defending." Ava spun around, her eyes blazing with fury. "How dare you call me that?" Thomas didn't flinch. "What else would you call a woman who's engaged and sleeping with a married man?" Ava turned away, muttering something under her breath, and the room fell into silence. "Before you go," Thomas's voice cut through the tension, "one more question. Why were you planning to spend the weekend with another man?" Ava froze, her words finally spilling from her lips, filled with bitterness. "It's all because of you, and you know it." Thomas blinked, stunned. "Because of me? What are you talking about?" "When our relationship got serious, you told me you'd been with 3 women before me," Ava said, her voice sharp with accusation. "You were my first and only. I said it didn't matter, but after talking to Kyle, it started eating away at me. I felt like I had to cheat to balance things out between us." "You felt like you had to cheat?" Thomas's voice grew even colder. "How do you even justify that?" "Kyle said that for our marriage to succeed, we had to be equals. He reminded me that you've always claimed you'd never stay with a woman who cheats. So I thought, since we're not married yet, I should level the playing field now," she explained, her reasoning warped by desperation. "After the wedding, I'd never do it again." Thomas's face hardened. "Are you out of your mind? I've been faithful to you since day one." Ava shifted nervously. "Kyle helped me see how unfair it was for me, but he wasn't trying to manipulate me." Thomas scoffed. "And you believe that? You really think he wasn't trying to get something in return?" "That's not what it was," she insisted. "He was just helping me figure things out." "Helping you?" Thomas's voice dripped with sarcasm. "And what exactly did this help consist of?" Ava turned away, her voice quieter. "He made me realize that I deserved to be on equal footing with you, that I had the right to be with other men, just like you were with other women." "The right?" Thomas's voice was filled with disbelief. "That's absolute madness." Ava forced a strained smile, but it was hollow. "Yes, I slept with another man, but I love you, and I'm ready to be with you forever." Thomas's gaze was icy. "Stay with me?" He shook his head in disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? If this weren't so tragic, it'd be laughable." Ava's face twisted in confusion. It all made sense when Kyle explained it. Back then it was so clear. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Thomas's expression darkened. "We were supposed to be loyal to each other forever, and instead, you're sleeping with your boss behind my back." Ava opened her mouth, wanting to deny it, but no words came. "No, no," she whispered, as if trying to turn back time, as if her denial could erase the truth Thomas had just uncovered. "Don't try to manipulate the situation," he said sharply. "What do you think will happen when you come back from your little trip? Did you seriously think I would stand by, smile, and pretend like nothing happened with the man who slept with my fiancé? No way." Her voice trembled. "I hoped you would never find out. I love you. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could hide it forever." She froze for a moment, her eyes fixed on him before she continued. "I assumed you would think I was just out of reach for a while. My phone was off, and you wouldn't suspect anything." He looked at her with disbelief and disgust, but she kept going. "Even if you did find out, I thought your love for me would make you forgive, that we would get through this and still get married, live the life we always dreamed of." "Live the life we dreamed of?" he repeated, bitterness in his voice, almost laughing but filled with rage. "What in you, or everything you know about me, gave you the idea that I would still want to marry you after this?" "Kyle said," she began, but Thomas interrupted her, his voice turning sharp. "Kyle said? Kyle said? That guy is nothing more than a manipulator who is using you because you're easy to manipulate." "No," she whispered weakly. "He was just trying to help make things better between us." "How many times?" His voice became icy. "How many times did you sleep with him or someone else?" "There was no one else, I swear," she sobbed. "Just him." "Fine. How many times then?" Silence stretched before she admitted. "Not that many. 5 or 8. 5 or 8? You slept with him that many times while we were engaged, and you act like it doesn't matter?" "I did it for us," Ava cried, her voice shaking with emotion. "I wanted our marriage to be strong. You remember when I told you I wasn't innocent?" "Yes, and I didn't tell you how many girls I had been with. You know I've made love 3 times, But I didn't say it was with 3 different girls. I was with Patricia Johnson, thinking we would run away after graduation, until her mother caught us. You know how that ended. They moved away and I never saw her again. 2 months later, I met you. Since then, I haven't even kissed another woman." His words were clipped, his anger evident in every syllable. "And meanwhile, you were with someone else, 5 or 8 times. You can't even keep count." Ava felt her stomach tighten with guilt. "So, you're ahead by 4 or 5 women," Thomas sarcastically added. "Maybe I should go and sleep with a few more to even the score." "No, please, no!" Ava cried out, her voice shaking with panic. "Do you really think that scoundrel would be calm if I had 4 or 5 affairs to even the score? And what about Laura? You've always said you didn't trust her around me. Or maybe I should try your sister. She's single after all." "Stop!" Ava shouted, her voice cracking. "Please don't! I'm done with him. I'm not going on that trip. I swear it's over. I made a mistake, but I did it because I thought it's what we needed." Thomas shook his head, his face stone cold. "No, you did it for yourself, only for yourself." She collapsed to her knees, pleading, "Please, Thomas, give me one more chance. I swear I'll never again." He raised his hand, and she fell silent. His voice was cold, final. "What you've done is unforgivable. You've destroyed everything between us. There's no future, no wedding." Her face contorted as the meaning of his words sank in. "No, don't say that. I love you. I swear I will never betray you like this again." His voice was full of rage, but beneath it, unmistakably, there was pain. "What hurts more than your betrayal is that when you started doubting us, you didn't come to me, to the one you call your love. I don't know what I would have done, but I can guarantee you one thing. I would never have told you to sleep with a married man. Only someone who wants to destroy a relationship would suggest something like that." The silence that followed was unbearable. Ava felt as if icy hands were tearing her apart, destroying every hope and dream she still had left. Her chest tightened, a lump formed in her throat, and she could barely breathe. "What do you think your mother will say when I tell her why we're not getting married?" Thomas's voice was quiet, dangerous. "When I explain that you gave yourself to another man, how do you think she'll react? I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. Everyone, our families, our friends, will know the truth, that we're not getting married because you slept with a married man." His hand gripped her fingers, and with a sharp movement, he ripped the engagement ring from her, nearly twisting her finger in the process. "No," she gasped, trying to reach for it. "It's mine. You gave it to me." Ava desperately struggled, trying to get the ring back, the last reminder of what they once meant to each other. But Thomas's expression remained cold, his grip unyielding. "You destroyed everything," he hissed, his knuckles white as he clenched the ring in his fist. "Everything this ring symbolized is gone." His words were as sharp as a blade, cutting her to the core. "We're done. I can't marry you." His gaze pierced her, and the seriousness of his words was undeniable. "Leave now, before I do something I'll regret." The firmness of his voice struck her like a blow, and Ava felt her body begin to shut down. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came. Only a strangled, desperate sound escaped her lips, like the final breath of a dying person. Her eyes, filled with terror, searched desperately for even the slightest sign of compassion, but Thomas remained unmoved. Her body shook uncontrollably, but the silence between them lingered. Tears streamed down his cheeks, betraying the depth of his pain. "I haven't felt this way since my father died," he whispered, as if speaking to himself. Ava's thoughts raced, trying to find anything that could mend the shattered pieces of their relationship. But nothing came. It was only in this agonizing moment that she realized how far things had gone, how deeply she had deceived herself. The unbearable silence was suddenly broken by a sharp knock at the door. Ava flinched, her breath quickening, and she whispered, "Oh no, it's Kyle. I'll get rid of him." "Don't make it worse," she pleaded, but Thomas had already grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the door. "Calm down, I'm not going to make a scene," he said, his voice frighteningly calm. "I'll finish him off right in front of you." Ava jumped to her feet, her heart pounding. "He's not worth it!" Don't ruin your life over this, she cried, trying to block his path. I don't care, Thomas said, sidestepping her, his tone empty and dead. I've lost everything, but if I take him down, at least I'll make him pay for what he's done. She frantically tried to dial Kyle's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. Thomas, with the bat in hand, flung the door open, ready to strike. But instead of Kyle, 2 police officers stood on the doorstep. The bat slipped from his hands, hitting the floor with a loud thud. He froze, his face impassive as the officers walked past him. Excuse me, ma'am, one of them addressed Ava. Are you Ava Gonzalez? Her heart raced. Yes, she whispered. What happened, officer? The officer's face remained expressionless as he closed the door behind him. Do you know Mrs. Emma Martinez? Ava blinked, her thoughts clouded with confusion. I work for her husband, Kyle, she answered quietly. The officers exchanged glances, as if sharing some private joke. Did something happen? Did something happen to Emma? She asked, her voice trembling with fear. No, ma'am, the officer replied slowly. But about 2 hours ago, Mrs. Martinez shot and killed her husband in their living room. Ava's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor, her mind flooded with shock. Thomas disappeared into the kitchen and returned a few minutes later with a pot of cold water. Without saying a word, he poured it over Ava, soaking her hair, which clung to her face like wet fur. It took her several minutes to gather the strength to speak. Oh my God, was all she could manage. Ava's hands trembled uncontrollably as tears streamed down her face. Kyle is dead. The officer nodded grimly. Yes, ma'am. Thomas responded with a bitter, hollow laugh, causing the officers to exchange worried glances. Looks like she wasn't going to let him leave with you for the weekend. We need you to come down to the station with us, ma'am. Earlier that day, Mrs. Martinez had coldly warned her neighbor, she'll pay for ruining my marriage. Now, with police cars swarming the area, Ava was the target. Authorities believed it would be safer for her downtown. Numb from shock, her face ashen, Ava stood among the ruins of her life. Don't come back, cheater. Thomas's cruel voice rang in her ears, his words echoing in her mind as the cries of his former fiancée filled the air. The officers nearly had to carry Ava to the patrol car. Thomas watched as the flashing lights disappeared into the night, his mind spinning with the speed of his unraveling world. 3 sips of whiskey loosened his tongue, and after the 4th, his mind filled with venomous inspiration. He opened his laptop and began composing a letter to everyone he knew. Family, friends, colleagues, even the church choir, no one was left out. The subject line blazed, Why I'm refusing to marry Ava Gonzalez, liar and cheater. His fingers flew over the keyboard. Turn on the news tonight, and you'll hear about a middle-aged woman who killed her husband for cheating with a 30-year-old floozy. And that floozy, by the way, is my ex-fiancée Ava. Yes, the same righteous Ava who condemned her friends for their affairs. She's the reason a man in his 60s is lying in the morgue. And let me add, she slept with someone old enough to be her father. Now you all know why I'm not marrying her. Thank God I dodged that bullet. The police are hiding her because the widow wants revenge. Honestly, I hope she gets it. As soon as he hit send, replies flooded his inbox. His phone buzzed. A local newspaper journalist wanted to talk. Without hesitation, Thomas sent a few photos of Ava in a revealing swimsuit, then gave the reporter all the dirty details. He even agreed to go on live radio to tell his story. Over the next few hours, he was bombarded with calls, messages, and even words of sympathy from people who knew Ava. When his voice finally gave out, Thomas took a break. He grabbed a pack of black trash bags and started stuffing Ava's belongings into them. By the time he finished, 3 bags stood by the door, which he dragged into the garage next to the trash cans. The neighborhood had been quiet for years, but the next morning's headlines screamed, Love Triangle Ends in Murder. By noon, news vans descended on the block. The evening broadcasts showed footage of the fugitive widow, photos of Ava in that same swimsuit, and shots of the victim. Late that night, Thomas finished the last of the bourbon. By morning, the news crews returned, this time filming as a locksmith changed the locks on his doors. A new "no trespassing" sign now stood prominently in the yard. Just 2 hours later, police arrested Emma Martinez, asleep in her car just a few blocks from Ava's apartment. She offered no resistance. Meanwhile, a groggy Thomas was rudely awakened from his hangover by loud knocks on the door. "Go away!" he shouted. "It's the police," came the stern reply. Grumbling, Thomas flung the door open. "What now?" "Mr. Anderson, your fiancé wants to come home and explain everything to you." "I don't have a fiancé anymore, and this isn't her home," he snarled. "This is my home, and it'll never be hers." He pointed to the trash bags by the garage. "That's all she has left. Take them with you, or I'll do something I'll regret." As the officers turned to leave, he added with icy finality, "Tell her she'll never get my forgiveness. I'm done with her. Forever." Closing the door behind him, he heard her voice coming from the police car. "Thomas, I love you." He didn't respond, turning on the television and settling into the armchair. An old black-and-white Western flickered on the screen, offering a distraction from his thoughts. No one had ever taken responsibility for leaking the photos that exposed the affair to Martinez's wife. But everyone in the office knew that the secretary, Kayla, showed up on Monday with a smug smile. Ava quickly found herself isolated. She hadn't even reached her office when she lost her job. After the death of the business owner, despite his wife hiring expensive lawyers claiming she was temporarily insane, the company was sold to a foreign buyer who immediately fired all the staff and moved operations abroad. Ava's family turned their backs on her, branding her as an unfaithful fiancé. The day after her court testimony, she packed her things into her car and left town in search of a fresh start. As she drove past Thomas's house for the last time, she saw a bright "for sale" sign on the lawn. She tried to keep driving, but tears blurred her vision. Ava pulled over to the side of the road, closed her eyes, and longed to feel the comfort of his arms once again. In that moment, more than anything, she just wanted to disappear. 4 years later, Thomas returned to his hometown for the funeral of an old friend. The Alumni Association had invited the entire class, and a large crowd was expected. It was his first visit since the events that had turned his life upside down. Walking beside him was his beautiful wife, Barbara, her hand holding his tightly. Barbara understood perfectly well the painful memories this town stirred in him and responded by gripping his hand even tighter. Their energetic 2-year-old son, Mason, started to grow restless and soon ran off in search of adventure. As Thomas and Barbara stopped to admire the window display of an antique shop, distracted Mason bumped into a woman begging for alms. She staggered, dropping a paper bag, and a few items spilled onto the sidewalk, including a condolence card. "Mason Anderson, stop fooling around this instant!" Barbara's firm voice cut through the air, making the woman freeze at the sound of the familiar name. Turning to her, Barbara quickly apologized. "I'm sorry. We've been driving for a long time and he's full of energy." Mason approached the woman, his voice soft and apologetic. "I'm sorry I made you cry. Are you okay?" The woman gave him a kind smile. "It's all right. You have a well-mannered boy. You should be proud." When Thomas bent down to pick up her fallen belongings, their eyes met. For a moment, their gazes locked in silent recognition as Mason handed his father an apple that had fallen out of the bag. Without a word, Thomas returned the bag to her, but Barbara noticed tears starting to form in his eyes. Her protective instincts kicked in immediately, and she abruptly stepped between her husband and the woman who carried so much of their past. Her look, cold and sharp, carried a clear warning. "Stay away from my family," she said in an icy tone. As Ava turned to leave, Barbara's parting words pierced the air. "Forever means never. You're in this position because of your sins. You thought you could do all that evil and be happy. No, this is your karma." This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Since it was my day off, I decided to invite my close friend Alexander for a drink. We found a quiet corner in the bar, away from the noise. I assumed he would stick to non-alcoholic drinks since he had a night shift starting at 7. We both worked at the same paper company, and our shifts alternated regularly. Today, we were waiting for my wife Mary to join us. Although I felt uneasy, I tried to keep my emotions in check. Alexander, oblivious to my short responses, kept the conversation going. Mary and I had a long history. We had known each other since high school and moved in the same circles as we grew up. Over time, both of us grew fond of Alexander, and he became an integral part of our group. Though Alexander was a good friend, he wasn't always the most reliable. His reputation as a womanizer had followed him since his youth. His commitments were often as flimsy as warm jelly. However, my feelings for Mary deepened over time, and it seemed mutual. Our friendship naturally blossomed into love, and by the time we were 25, we were married. On weekends, the four of us often got together: Mary, Alexander, I, and whoever he was dating at the time. Despite his occasionally unreliable behavior, Alexander was always there when it truly mattered. From the start, it was clear to everyone, even my parents, that Mary and I were meant for each other. Our marriage felt like the natural culmination of our relationship. Alexander was my best man at the wedding, although he also managed to cause trouble at my bachelor party. He left me on a train without any money. Luckily, I had anticipated such pranks and hidden some cash and a credit card in my sock. Although the night didn't go as smoothly as planned, I eventually stopped worrying about the expenses. Alexander was genuinely stunned to see me at work the next day. He had already prepared an excuse in case I didn't show up. From a young age, Mary had a natural flirtatiousness. At first, she didn't even realize it, but as she grew older, she learned to control it, limiting herself to harmless smiles and playful glances. It never went beyond that. Crossing a physical line wasn't her style. "Why do you flirt with other men?" I once asked her. She smiled softly and replied, "It's fun. It doesn't mean anything." Even Alexander wasn't immune to her charm. Over time, her behavior became something I got used to, and it seemed strange if she didn't flirt at least a little. One evening, several years after our wedding, I asked her as we left a bar, "Why don't you ever flirt with me in public?" She laughed. "Flirting with your own husband in public isn't all that exciting, but don't worry, I'll save that for the bedroom." And she kept her word. Our life together was filled with happiness, and our careers were flourishing. Alexander and I were both offered the opportunity to become shift managers at work. It required some training, and Alexander took the course first. I followed a few weeks later, which meant I had to spend the weekend away from home. Alexander, being single and attractive, always had plenty of stories about his romantic escapades. I, on the other hand, was married and responsible. Sometimes I'd have a bit too much to drink, but nothing serious ever happened. With the promotion, Mary and I were finally able to start saving for a down payment on a house. We were excitedly discussing our future, starting a family, getting rid of contraception, and settling down. It seemed like everything was going according to plan. But about 6 months ago, I began noticing subtle changes in Mary's behavior. At first, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Initially, our intimate life seemed to have picked up, and I assumed it was due to my absence. But after a few weeks, things changed. Our closeness became less frequent, and I noticed that in public, she didn't flirt as openly as before. She still did, but it was more restrained. Small details started to stand out. The house wasn't as clean as usual. The laundry she usually did during the week was now being postponed until the weekend. Household chores, which she used to do in her spare time, began taking up the hours we spent together on weekends. Something was off, but I couldn't quite figure out what. I started paying more attention. One habit of hers struck me as odd. Every time she returned from work, she would head straight for the shower. At first, everything seemed fine, except for the fact that her showers suddenly became twice as long. I also noticed a significant decrease in her paycheck, indicating that she wasn't working as often. When I asked her about it, she said the supermarket was cutting her hours and hiring younger employees. But when I went to the store, I didn't see any new workers, just the same old team she had always worked with. However, I did notice a large recruitment sign posted prominently. That's when it hit me. Maybe she was seeing someone from work. I couldn't afford to hire a private investigator, and my new job was taking up a lot of time, making it nearly impossible to take a day off to investigate. Even if I could, Alexander would likely notice and ask questions. I wasn't ready to talk about this with anyone, not even Alexander. I was afraid Mary was drifting away from me. I needed undeniable proof. So I went online and bought some small, discreet Wi-Fi cameras. I installed them in the bedroom and living room, and I also put a tracking app on her phone. Weeks went by, but I didn't find anything suspicious. Frustrated, I decided to confide in Alexander. I shared my fears that Mary might be seeing someone else and asked for his help. He seemed skeptical, assuring me that Mary loved me too much to do something like that, but he agreed to help. He offered to keep an eye on her in the evenings when he had day shifts, and he said he would check in on her during the day when he worked nights, updating me on anything he found out. Mary worked at the supermarket stocking shelves, and I suspected her affair might be happening there. If it was happening at work, it would be hard to catch them. Weeks passed, and Alexander didn't report anything. He was confident that there was no affair. He had a contact at the supermarket, and he assured me there were no rumors about Mary. There were rumors about other employees, but none involving her. Despite his confidence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The signs were too obvious. Extra affection, new lingerie. It was only a matter of time before the truth came out. Although her wardrobe hadn't changed much, she started doing her hair more often and regularly applied makeup. One Saturday night, we went to a local bar with a small dance floor. Normally, Mary would dance with both of us, but this time, she spent almost the entire night dancing with me. She only danced with Alexander a few times, and that's when it hit me. Her flirting with Alexander had stopped. She wasn't just flirting anymore, she was with him. How could I have been so blind, trusting both of them, two of the closest people to me outside of my family? That's when everything became clear. I had been blind to the truth, but I needed to gather more evidence. This time, I decided to handle it myself. Mary and I had schedules that often coincided, making it easier for her to hide her comings and goings. But her work hours changed, so we had a calendar with her schedule on it. I reviewed the records of when she left the house, comparing them to the calendar. It became painfully obvious. She was leaving around 9 a.m., even though her shift didn't start until 1 p.m. She often left her phone at home, and to get from Alexander's house to the supermarket, she had to pass by our house. How foolish I had been. The next Monday, I had a day shift, and Alexander had a night shift. Mary's shift didn't start until the afternoon. After leaving for work, I called in sick. Even though her shift was later, she left the house about an hour after me, heading straight to Alexander's house, then leaving a few minutes before her shift started. Our home was neglected, barely cared for because she spent her days there, not here. I took pictures of her going in and out of his house. I needed to be sure. I needed undeniable proof. I didn't want to look like a fool when I confronted them with the truth without concrete evidence. On Monday evening, I decided to take a walk, already knowing exactly what I was going to do. Alexander's spare key wasn't a mystery to me. I knew exactly where he kept it. I brought 2 hidden Wi-Fi cameras with me, confident that among the clutter of his apartment, they would go unnoticed. I had no problem installing one of these cameras in his bedroom. During my last visit, I noticed the apartment was unusually clean, which was rare for him. It made me wonder if he was seeing someone, although he hadn't mentioned anything. I wouldn't have been surprised if he brought someone over. He had a habit of inviting women to his place. But the next day, I saw them together. The kiss Mary gave him was far from friendly. It was something for lovers. I heard her complaining about the mess, and then she immediately started cleaning. When she was satisfied with the result, he took her hand and led her to the bedroom. They stayed there for 2 hours. That was enough for me. I couldn't make myself watch what happened next. The pain was unbearable, and I saved the recording for later. That was last week. When Mary asked why I had become distant, I told her I wasn't feeling well and wasn't ready for intimacy. With my parents moving, I suggested she come with me to visit them for the weekend. There was no space for intimacy there either. It just felt wrong, especially after what I had seen. Besides, one of Alexander's remarks on the recording made me even more suspicious. After we returned on Sunday, neither of us felt like cooking, so I suggested ordering Chinese takeout. I volunteered to pick it up. On the way, I drove close enough to Alexander's apartment to connect to his Wi-Fi. My suspicions were confirmed. Then I texted Alexander, suggesting we meet at a pub before his shift. I arrived early and ordered drinks, one for me, one for him, and one for Mary. When Alexander arrived, curiosity flashed across his face as he asked what the meeting was about. I told him I'd prefer to wait for Mary. His face darkened slightly. He only drank half of his cocktail, not wanting to get drunk before work. Soon, I received a message from Mary saying she was on her way. I left my phone on the table, screen up, waiting for the next message. When Mary arrived, she slid into the seat beside me, giving me a quick peck on the cheek. She glanced briefly at Alexander and then looked back at me with a smile. "So, what's the secret?" she asked in a playful tone. I leaned back in my chair and calmly said, "It's quite simple. How long have you two been seeing each other behind my back?" The shock on their faces was exactly what I expected. I had hidden an old mobile phone in the corner, recording the entire conversation. Mary's voice wavered as she said, "It's not like that. Why would you think that? We're not doing anything wrong." Alexander raised his hands in a defensive gesture, his face flushed. "Man, this is crazy. We'd never do that. You're just paranoid." Both of them were clearly shaken. That's when I calmly reached into my pocket and pulled out a few photographs. I slid them across the table, pictures of them holding hands as they entered his bedroom. The timestamps confirmed everything. 2 hours later, they came out, and one of the shots captured them kissing like lovers. Mary's face turned pale when she saw the images. I pulled an envelope from my other pocket. Inside was a separation agreement I had prepared. I tossed it on the table in front of her. Mary opened it, her hands trembling as she read the document. Her voice cracked as she began to plead. No, I don't want this. I'm so sorry. Please, I don't want this." I leaned forward, my voice remaining steady and firm. "You still haven't answered my question." "How long has this been going on?" I asked, maintaining a calm but threatening tone. "I'm going to ask a few questions, and I already know most of the answers. One lie and it's over. I'll sign this, and by tomorrow I'll be sitting across from a lawyer. Is this a separation? It's going to turn into a divorce." Mary's expression faltered, and I could almost hear her thoughts racing in panic. In her mind, this separation was temporary. She believed she'd find a way to fix things, that we could restore our relationship before it became final. But I wasn't offering a pause. This was a line not to be crossed. Alexander spoke next, his voice quiet, filled with guilt. "It's been going on for 6 months, he admitted. "I'm sorry, my friend." "We didn't plan this," he continued, avoiding eye contact. "I've loved her for a long time, and she loves me too, but she loves you more than she loves me. I'm sorry. We should have stopped before it got this far." I shook my head, feeling the weight of his words pressing down on me. "I won't let this continue. You've both already caused enough harm." I didn't need to torture myself by going through the recordings. Seeing them together in bed was more than enough. But now it was Mary's turn to explain. "It started when I went to his apartment while you were in class," she said quietly. "His place was a mess, and I cleaned up. We ended up on the couch, drinking wine and watching a movie. He joked that we looked like an old married couple. Then he kissed me. And that's how it began." I clenched my jaw, feeling the anger boil within me. "You felt guilty," I said sharply, "but not enough to stop, right?" Her face darkened, filled with regret. "I'm so sorry. We shouldn't have let it happen. But with him, it was easier." I stared at her intently, my patience wearing thin. "Didn't he say you love him?" "I love you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I've always had feelings for him, but you're the one I truly love. That hasn't changed." She avoided answering the question, so I pressed again. "Do you love him?" Her eyes dropped, and when she spoke it was barely audible. "Yes, I love him." Then, as if trying to soften the blow, she added, "But not as much as I love you. I'm sorry." Desperation was clear on her face and her voice shook. "Can we fix this? I'll do anything. Please. This wasn't supposed to happen." Her confession continued, revealing even more. Yes, I love him, but I love you more. I'm so sorry. I didn't want it to go this far. But you can love more than one person, can't you? Over time, my feelings for him grew, and in the past few months, it became something more. It all started when you weren't around. Silence fell between us until she broke it with a quiet question. How did you find out? It wasn't hard, I replied coldly. You stopped flirting with him, and with me too. You said you didn't feel that way anymore. So, all those moments we've shared recently, was that just guilt? I asked, watching her closely. She met my gaze. Partly, yes. I'm sorry. But there were moments when I genuinely wanted to be with you. You're better than him, she added, though to me her words felt hollow. I put it all together last week, I continued, never taking my eyes off her. What would you have done if we started a family? Whose child would it be, mine or his? Her face turned pale, and panic filled her eyes. Yours, of course, always yours. I couldn't hide the disbelief in my voice. And how can I believe that? How do I know you're not lying? Her desperation grew, and her response became more frantic. We're not like that. I would never deceive you like that. I'd never pass his child off as yours. I raised an eyebrow, clearly expressing my skepticism. How can I know that? You could lie about anything. Her voice trembled as she replied, No. We've already discussed this with Alexander. We knew that the moment would come when we'd have to stop as soon as we decided to have children. He nodded slightly, showing that he understood what I was talking about. I continued. But I overheard Alexander saying that he's ready to start everything again as soon as the baby is born. Her eyes widened in surprise as she looked at me. No, I will be completely yours. We will have real commitments. Alexander, he was supposed to be the godfather. We've discussed this already, haven't we? I replied, trying to keep my tone even. But then I saw that video. I heard you tell him, I love you. The same words you said to me this morning before I left for work. You can't love both of us. So who is it going to be? Him or me? You need to choose right now, not later, not tomorrow, right this second. She reached out, her voice trembling. You. It's always been you. Forever, she whispered. I'm sorry. I won't see Alexander anymore. I choose you, she repeated, as if trying to convince herself. I'll fix everything. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, not believing it. That's great, but what's going to stop you from betraying me again? She hesitated, not knowing what to say. I don't know, but I'll find a way. We can change everything. We can even move in with your parents if you want. I love him, yes, but I love you more. I'm sorry. I can't control my feelings, but I want us to have children. My gaze shifted to Alexander. So when I asked you to watch Mary because I suspected her of cheating, you lied and said she wasn't? He simply nodded, confirming the truth. Mary's head whipped around to him. Why didn't you tell me he thought I was cheating on him? She asked. Because you would have stopped, and I couldn't let that happen. I love you. Of course he'd say that. It was as if I had written his lines myself. I see, I muttered, showing another picture. This time it was him with Barbara Miller, our boss's wife, cozied up on a couch. I played the video where his voice could be heard. Sorry, I love you. Let's run away together from your husband. And what about Patricia? I asked, showing another photo where he was lying in bed with a dark-haired woman embracing her. I played the video where he whispered, asking when he could see her again. Mary sat there, stunned, tears streaming down her cheeks. Funny, I thought. Do fish cry? I finished my beer, got up, and grabbed another one from the fridge. I had no desire to deal with these two any longer. Later, I'd listen to their phone conversations to see if anything interesting came up. I was already prepared for it. Sitting back down, I turned to Mary. Actually, we're not moving anywhere. I think we'll stay right here. Alexander's face turned pale. I can't move. My parents are here. They need me. You'll be moving sooner than you think, I said. I sent Mr. Miller an excellent collection of your extracurricular activities with his wife. I leaned in closer, a smirk on my lips. You really should have cleaned up better on that couch. And I remember you telling her that you loved her more than anyone, asking her to leave her husband for you. Looks like you can love more than one woman after all." At that moment, my phone vibrated with a message. I glanced at it. "Looks like our boss is waiting for you at the office. I'm sure he'll stay late to make sure you two can have a chat." I slid a few more pictures of Alexander and Mrs. Miller across the table. Finally, Mary grasped the full scale of what was happening. Her voice sliced through the tension like a blade, her fury palpable as she screamed, "You're a liar! You betrayed me!" The bitter irony of the accusation hung in the air, coming from someone who had deceived, now accusing another of the same sin. Alexander didn't linger. Without a word, he disappeared quickly, not even looking back. Mr. Miller, tall and imposing, remained in place. Mary reached out, her voice trembling. "Forgive me, darling." Her apologies flowed endlessly. "I'm truly sorry. We shouldn't have let this spiral out of control. Let's just forget about this break. I'll fix everything. I'll do whatever it takes. I want to save our 6-year marriage." Her desperation was obvious. "Anything. Just don't leave." I calmly told her to stay put while I walked to the window. My suspicions were confirmed by what I saw, prompting me to make a call. 911, I need to report an incident, I told the operator. "Outside the pint bar, there's an assault happening. You should send assistance." I chose not to reveal my identity. I didn't want to get involved in the aftermath. If they wanted to find me, they had my number. The previous message I received had been from Mr. Miller. When I returned to Mary, she was still crying. "I'll do anything you ask," she repeated, her voice trembling. "I couldn't control what happened, but I know it was wrong. When it started, I didn't know how to stop." "I'm so sorry," she continued, her voice filled with regret. "We should have been stronger. I hate that I hurt you. I'll do whatever you ask. Just don't involve anyone else. I'll always look perfect for you." Her words faded, and another thought crossed my mind. "So you didn't use protection, did you?" I asked, locking eyes with her. She looked shocked, her eyes widening. "I'm on the pill," she muttered. I leaned in closer, studying her face carefully. "And besides you and Barbara Miller, how many other women has he been with? We both know about Patricia, that one random time, but this isn't just about pregnancy, is it?" A flicker of irritation crossed her face. "I guess I should get tested." I nodded. "That's probably the best option," she sniffled. "First thing tomorrow." Her next words were barely audible, a plea. "Please take me home. Let me be with you again. I swear, nothing like this will ever happen again. I promise." "When you're clean," I replied coldly. "But there's something you need to do first." "Anything, darling. Whatever you want. On the way home, we'll stop by your parents. You'll tell them everything." Her face went pale. "No, please, no, I can't do that. I can't hurt them like that." "If you can't do that, you can't do anything for me. That's the condition." The finality of my words seemed to crush her. "I guess that's where we end this." I pulled out the divorce papers, signed my name, and handed them to her. She stared at them, her resolve crumbling. "Fine, I'll do it. I'll tell them." "Good. We'll stop by on the way. And don't worry about sharing all the filthy details. Just tell them you had an affair with Alexander and how long it's been going on. Simple as that." When we stepped outside, we were greeted by flashing lights, an ambulance, and several police cars. "Where did they all come from?" she whispered. From the end of the weekend until today, it was rare to see even a single police officer in the area. But now, 7 had gathered at the scene. We approached the front door of her parents' house. She was still crying, trying to pull herself together. Her mother gently led her inside while her father stayed by the door, visibly anxious. "Honey, what's going on?" her mother asked with concern in her voice. "Is everything okay? Is Michael all right?" She nodded slightly, wiping away the last of her tears with her hand. "Yes, Mom. Michael's fine. Well, not exactly." She paused to collect her thoughts, took a deep breath, and spoke again. "Mom, Dad, I need to confess something. For the past 6 months, I've been involved with Alexander. It was a terrible mistake, and I deeply regret it." We talked, and Michael, he forgave me. Her father stepped closer, now standing next to her mother. Both turned their attention to me and the suitcase I had brought with me. I couldn't hold back any longer, and my voice cut through the tension. I never said I forgave you. Mary's head snapped toward me, her face turning pale at my words. I dropped the suitcase to the floor, the sound echoing through the room. Her eyes widened, and her hands flew to her face, covering her mouth, shocked by the truth. 6 years ago you chose me, but then you decided it wasn't enough. You needed him. I'm sorry, Mary, but one apology isn't enough to fix this. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I pulled a thick envelope from my pocket, its weight feeling much heavier than its size, and handed it to her. Her father, whose eyes now glistened with tears, reached out and took it from me. Divorce papers, I said in an even tone. For the past 6 months you've lived as though you were married to him. All I've received from you are guilty confessions, followed by declarations of love for him. I even saw you cleaning his apartment. Do you even realize that the only thing that mattered to him was that you cleaned for him? It made his life easier so he could impress other women. Our marriage will end in 60 days. The apartment is up for rent. You can either stay there or return to your parents, if they'll have you. I don't care. Just let me know if you want to keep the apartment, and I'll come by to pick up my things. Through her sobs, she could barely manage to say, "But I love you. I really do love you." I shook my head, and my voice became colder than I ever thought possible. That wasn't enough, Mary. You made your choice when you chose a liar who betrayed all of us. He wasn't just a cheater, Mary. He betrayed you. He betrayed Mr. Miller, and in some twisted way he even betrayed Barbara by choosing you. If you ever wondered what kind of husband he would be, I hope you figured it out by now. Without saying another word, I turned and left. She thought she could love 2 men, but in the end, she gave herself to someone who meant less. And judging by her face, even the physical side of it wasn't worth the price she paid. Her parents couldn't stand the shame and immediately threw her out of the house. We won't tolerate such a disgraceful daughter in our home. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.